we were trying to get the schedule together,
Mm-hmm.
and we didn't have a guest lined up, for tonight.
Right.
I was sitting there, and we kind of had some topics that we threw around to talk about. But there was one person that I couldn't get out of my mind, and I was like, you know what? Let me see what this person is doing tomorrow, and see if they want to come on.
Yeah.
And
Don't let it die. You know what I'm saying? Just there's always kind
well,
of
I took a chance. I took a chance, and I didn't know what she was going to say.
Sometimes you got to drop it on beat 4 too.
So. But I texted this person, and she just replied. She was like, "Oh my gosh, yes, I would love to do that." So I was really excited, and but what was so funny was I already had the poster made for the month, right? We just didn't have anybody in that first slot. So as soon as she agreed to it, I found a photo of her.
Mm-hmm.
I put her on the phone and put her on the poster, and then I sent it to her. She goes, "Hey, that was fast." I was like, I'm getting good at that. I'm getting good at that. All the graphic stuff. What can I say? But listen, we have a very special guest that we are going to bring in. Both Tyrone and I have had the pleasure of working with her and learning a lot, and we have a tremendous amount of respect for not only her talent but also she as a person and how she treats musicians, and
her business sense,
her business
IQ.
sense is a cut above, and
Right.
and she should really at some point put a clinic on for aspiring vocalist or whatever of how you deal with and how you treat your musicians.
Don't give her ideas, bro. She'll turn it into something.
Hey,
she'll turn it into something.
Listen, I'm full of ideas, though. I mean,
right.
that's who I am. That's what I do.
This person that we're about to bring up, she'll look on the side like this, and I know that look. Next thing I know is enacted right away. So,
yes, sir. Yes, sir. So she is a native Atlantan. She is a Spelman grad. She has performed for 2 Olympic Games. She has performed for 2 presidents. Now I have to find out a little bit more about that one.
Trump?
I don't, man. No. Man, why are you trying to start, bro? Why are you starting? See, listen. She was a songwriter of the national theme song for the 100 Black Men of America, entitled "What They See Is What They'll Be." In 2015, she's an award winner for Jazz Vocalist of the Year by the Black Women in Jazz.
Wow.
She is co-producer of Sisters in Song, saluting jazz's greatest divas, which has had 2 runs. We were on the first one. Is it 3? Is it 3? Had 3 runs. We were a part of the first one. The first one. And she's also the executive producer and founder of the Bronze Lens Film Festival. So without further ado, Miss Kathleen Bertrand.
Hey guys.
Hey, what's going on?
Hey, can you hear me okay?
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Awesome.
Awesome.
That song that you're playing in the background was written by Tony Hightower, and I added a line or 2.
Okay.
Okay.
You work out the royalties there, you know what I'm saying? I mean,
yeah. See, and again, she's shouting out. See, this is Kathleen, and I mean this from the bottom of my heart, but that's something that a lot of people do not do. They will take credit for everything and not think twice about it. So the musicians, I know I'm speaking for all the cats that have worked with you and will work with you in the future. Thank you very much for being who you are.
Absolutely. I love the musicians that I get to work with. Plain out. Um, Great respect on both parts of what has to be done.
Mhm.
Um, but the musicians I've worked with over the years, yourselves included, um, have just been marvelous. And you add to what I'm able to do because you get me. Whatever
Mm.
me it is that's on stage that day, you never know.
Yeah.
Uh, and I just
I've
appreciate
seen
that.
that. I've seen that. I've seen I there was a I think it was at Tyrone's CD release where you were just a guest. I mean, I think you were singing on maybe one song.
2 songs. Yeah.
And it was the what's the is it the everyone has a heart?
Anyone
No.
who had heart.
Everyone had a
Anyone.
heart, right? The Burt
Mhm,
Bacharach Dionne Warwick tune,
mhm,
which is not an easy track because
no,
there's multiple time signatures that happen in that.
mhm,
Right.
mhm.
And Kathleen, you had how many singers? Did you have 2 or 3 background singers? And Kathleen was like, "What? All right, y'all, let's go." Man, I was just like, wow. I was really like,
You're so wrong.
I'm ready. I'm ready. But she was singing to the sing. She was like, "Let's go, y'all. Have you
Right.
worked on this? Let's go.
Right.
It's
Right.
time to
Right.
go to work." And it was just a beautiful thing. I just
And
had to share
the best thing, she was in my corner too. Like it was my thing, and she was like, "Tyrone, I'm here to support you." And it was just truly beautiful that that could happen, you know. And
that.
so I
Absolutely.
like to think that we try to do the same thing, but you know, oftentimes support is not the thing that happens, you know. So
Right.
Mm,
All right.
shout
mhm,
out to you for
Yeah.
support,
Yeah.
for love.
mhm.
So Kathleen, tell us a little bit about just your upbringing. I know you're from Atlanta, and this is because I there's a lot of things that I don't know. We haven't been working together for that long, so
Yes.
there's a big gap there that I'm really curious to find out about, and that is how did what's your musical journey? How did you even start uh, singing? Was that something that you started at a young age, or
Yes.
tell us a little bit about that?
Okay. Um, I always sang. I would sing at home. I had two older brothers, and it was known that if I went in the bathroom, then I'm going to be having a concert. I'm going to be
Okay.
singing,
Okay.
and so much to the point that my brothers would, ask my mama to make me come out of the bathroom because
Right. But the
I'm just
acoustics,
singing.
the
They've got
acoustics are
music.
right in the bathroom.
They've got important things to do. I'm just singing. So, but I've
Right. Right.
always sung. I sung in the choir in elementary school, which was Our Lady of Lourdes School here in Atlanta. I then went to Grady High School. It's now Midtown High School here in Atlanta, and I sung in the choir there. But while at Grady, they had their first talent contest,
Hmm.
and so I entered, and I won it. And
Oh,
in winning the contest, I sang "People" by Barbara Streisand, and a classmate of mine who's I'm still acquainted with, Richard Siegel, played for me. He played piano for me,
Okay.
and so I won. But one of the judges for that event was a lady that worked at a major radio station in Atlanta. It was Quixie, WQXI radio, way back then.
mm,
And she told me about this national contest that was going on. It was called the National Super Teen Contest. And
mm-hmm,
I didn't know anything about it, but Maureen thought that I should enter. And
mm-hmm.
so she asked me to come out to their studios out in a building out on Peachtree Road. I rode the bus out there, and
Okay.
I went to the record store. Remember those things? And
Wreck a
found
stove. Wreck a
a
stove.
record
Wreck a
store.
stove. Wreck a stove.
Found an album of music tracks, you know, and
Oh
so
wow. Okay.
I sang. Say a Little Prayer for You, because I loved everything Burt Bacharach did and everything Dionne Warwick sung.
Mm-hmm.
And then they entered, so they had that playing, and I sang. That was my first time being in a studio. And so that was my entry into the contest. What I did not know is that there were 10,000 entries into the contest from all over the country. And
Right.
I won for Atlanta. And then I won for the region. And so then I got the winner of the region got a chance to go to Hollywood. So there were 9 finalists in all. And I was one of the 9 finalists to go to Hollywood. We recorded a television show called, you weren't ready for this? It's probably
Right.
before either of you were born. But the name of the show was called The Sounds of 68. And it was that time we were still in bell bottoms, and you know, the hippie movement was just
Yes.
starting, and
Mm-hmm.
it was a beautiful time, and it was also a very sad time, because that year was the year that Dr. King was killed.
Mm-hmm.
And then 2 months later, it was the year that Bobby Kennedy was killed.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just really wasn't feeling too good about life, you know, in general. And here comes this amazing trip to Hollywood, California. And so the show was televised on ABC. One of the special guests was Aretha Franklin.
Oh, wow.
And
Oh, wow.
so I got a chance to meet her. I was 16 going on 17. Not the song, but I was literally
Julie Andrews.
I am literally 16 going on 17. And so I met Aretha Franklin, and I won my category. It was best female, best group, best male. And so I won my category. I won a recording contract with Capitol Records. I won a car. The biggest sponsor was Singer Sewing Machines. And
I remember the Singer Sewing Machine.
Started diversifying their product line. So Singer not only gave me a sewing machine, but they gave me a color television. I was the first color television on the block. It's such a thing that everybody
I love it. I
has
love
that,
it.
but it wasn't back then. And I got my TV in time to see myself on the show in
Nice.
color.
Right.
So that was kind of my start, church and school, and then this great opportunity that allowed me to kind of be shot out of the cannon and really get out there. But here's what happened. I really wanted to go to school. And I had this contract with Capitol Records. Capitol Records wanted me to be with a local producer, a gentleman, God rest his soul, Bill Lowry, who was really big in the music business, but not so much in the kind of music that I wanted to sing. And so I went into the studio a couple of times with tracks that Bill had for me, but I didn't like them. I mean, I knew what I liked and what I didn't like. And I just felt that I had an alternative in my expression, and it wasn't the kind of music that he wanted me to sing. So I didn't do the contract. But I went to school. I went to Spelman all 4 years, graduated as an English major. I was not in the Glee Club
Oh, wow.
because at my heart, I probably wanted to sing other music like jazz. And came out of Spelman and just kind of worked my way around music and started being around bands that were here in Atlanta, and kind of worked my way through from that perspective, being on stage, learning songs that I didn't know had vocal arrangements to it that I'd always heard growing up as a child. I was exposed to jazz primarily. So that was always in my head at any given time. The instrumental arrangements that I heard were always with me. And that's probably why I didn't find the Glee Club music attractive.
So what were you listening to? Just curious, before you got the break in going to LA and the opportunity to sign with Capitol. What music were you listening to around that time?
I was listening to Dionne Warwick.
Mm-hmm.
I was listening to Coltrane and Miles, because that's what
Okay.
my brothers played.
Okay.
I was listening to Horace Silver, because that's what my brothers played. I didn't have an allowance and stuff like that, so
Mm,
it wasn't that I was going to buy a record. I would listen to what my brothers brought home or things on the radio. And what I listened to, I did listen to Quixie on occasion, but I didn't know about that contest. So I just
mhm,
listened to probably top 40 kinds of songs because I could
mhm,
always hear Dionne Warwick in those songs. I could hear Barbara Streisand in those
mhm,
songs.
mhm,
Um, so things like that.
So
mhm.
my question is, listening to Coltrane and listening to Miles Davis, what does that do for you as a vocalist? Like, how does that shape you as a musician, or does it shape your vocal stylings or interpretations of things? What does that do?
What it did was it established the base for me, BASE,
Hmm.
because the songs that they played, I didn't know, but they became my frame of reference. So, for instance, I tell this story all the time. When I went to the movies and heard The Sound of Music and these are a few of my favorite things. I came home and told my brother that the lady in the movie was singing this John Coltrane music because my frame of reference was da 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 da
Mhm,
da da da.
mhm,
Yeah.
I mean, that was that song, and the
mhm,
same thing for "Someday My Prince Will Come."
Right.
mhm.
That I had no idea that was from a Disney
Right.
movie
Right.
about,
Right,
was it Snow White or Cinderella or something?
Right.
No
right,
idea, because
right.
that was one of the most beautiful Miles Davis tunes I'd ever heard.
Yeah.
Wow.
So when I say that that's what I grew up around, that became my frame to learn various compositions. In learning about Sound of Music, you find out this Broadway show, learning about what was the song? Someday my prince will come, and finding out that that's from a Disney movie score. And so here were these Black musicians that were taking very popular music and reinterpreting it with jazz improvisation. That's what appealed to me most. And then let me also say, while I was in college, I had the opportunity to be a radio DJ.
Mhm.
Oh wow.
Um,
Okay.
there was a radio station in the Atlanta University Center. It was the first one before there was a WCLK. There was a WAUC. It was
Oh.
founded and created by Lo Jelks, rest in peace, Lo, who hired me at his company, Collegiate Broadcasting Company. And Lo met me because in my summer during college, I worked at WSB radio from a job that I had acquired, an internship. And so
Okay.
I'd be on the radio side, and there was a glass wall, and Lo Jelks would be on the television side. And so he saw this brown face over here on the radio side and came over and introduced himself. He told me about his company that he had, and Lo was doing he was doing, I guess it was the podcast of its day. He would record information about the various HBCUs around the country, and he would record their story or their history or something significant about them, and then he would send it to those schools for them to play on their radio stations or play in their communities or play on the Black stations in that community. So he was already doing the kind of service that and getting the kind of audience, say, that a podcast does, but it was just a lone wolf kind of, he does it, he would send it out every week, in addition to his job on WSB as a reporter. And so, but being a disc jockey for his radio station really opened up my eyes to jazz music. That was what I chose. And my first show was called Silk and Soul.
Hmm.
And I specifically zeroed in on female vocalists. And
Okay.
so that's where my exposure to Sarah Vaughan and Billie Holiday and Ella Fitzgerald and Betty Carter happened during my years at Spelman. My brothers only brought home Nancy Wilson. That's the only sound I had in that realm. But being at WAUC really opened my mind to not only song selection, but song styling. What the voice was doing, Ella just made me go, wow, just give up. Just don't do it. Woo! But it was amazing because it made me stretch, stretch the lows and the highs. Minnie Riperton was a person that was singing notes I had never heard before. Never heard anybody do anything like that. Yes, Mariah came later, but Minnie Riperton was hitting some notes that just nobody in the whole world.
Effortless too with it.
Effortless. Just open your mouth and say, well, that appealed to me a lot.
One more question about just that time and that era. And this is a group that I always I try to get as much information about them as possible, simply because there's still a lot of people that don't know that they're Black, and that is the Fifth Dimension.
Yeah.
And I know when I heard them, I had no idea, because it I probably heard them somewhere early 70s, mid 70s, something like that. And they were super sunshiny, I guess is what you would say. I mean, they were on the Hair soundtrack, right? And I can remember my sisters, that was big in our house, was the soundtrack to Hair. I mean, they wore that out, man. I got
me too.
I'm traumatized. I'm traumatized from hearing that so much. I have one sister in here, Jeanette, who probably remembers that. But the Fifth Dimension, I'm always trying to, because Marilyn McCoo. I mean, just and I was. Were you listening to their music at all, or was that somebody that spoke to you at all, or? Just curious.
I listened, as in if it's on a playlist or radio, and I did learn One Less Bell to Answer whenever that came about. And Let the Sun Shine In, and but I mean, it wasn't like I gotta go get the Fifth Dimension, or I gotta go see the Fifth Dimension. It wasn't anything like that. And I guess I would say the same for the Supremes. I loved their styling more than anything. And of course, if there's songs in the playlist, I know it because it's playing on the radio. But I can't say that I went out and bought a Supremes record, but I did watch what they had on. But I bought Dionne Warwick records, when I was working at the teen board and I finally had a little job. I bought Dionne Warwick records.
Kathleen, you have one of those vocal timbres where people wouldn't think that it's as high as you can get, because your voice has a thicker quality. So people would assume that that's a low range until they go to sing it. And they're like, oh. So, and that's one of the things when I was like doing that arrangement, anyone who had a heart, I was trying to think about range. Yeah. So I put on a couple of your songs to hear, and I was like, actually, that's quite high. And I wouldn't think it would be. There's only a certain amount of artists that, like Stevie Wonder, you hear Stevie Wonder, you think, oh, I could sing that, until you go and sing it.
Yeah.
And so that voice quality that you have, the timbre of your voice, I think is something that really sets you apart. Did you ever think about any artist that was similar to you, or is that just your natural sound, or you worked for it? How did you get
that's just my natural sound, because I love, I think in my head, there's some days I think I'm a soprano.
Right.
But I've met my matches, and so I know I'm not. I know I'm not. And I love my altos. I sing in my choir at Church Cascade United Methodist Church, New Advent Choir, and I'm very happy with the altos. And there's one of my choir mates that sits the way that we're seated. at some point your section is next to another section. So there's one of my choir mates that's very comfortable sitting next to the tenors. But I know if I sat next to the tenors, it's such an easy slide on.
Grab it, right?
Oh,
right.
You know, comfort, you know, no stress. I could be a tenor all day.
That sounds like my wife who just jumped in. When I met her in the choir, she would gravitate toward the tenors. I'm like, babe, step back up to the altos.
Yeah, because if you don't use it, you lose it.
Right.
And so,
say that again, Kathleen. Say that again.
If you don't use it, you lose it.
Yeah.
And you can put that on any level of life you want to talk about, you know, because that is true. So I've always tried to stay active within my song selections, or even in my rehearsals. I try to stay active in my higher range because that's what I really need. I need to keep the stretch going, you know. And if I don't, if I'm off for 3 weeks and eating pizza, oh my God. It's a climb back up that mountain, you know.
Yeah.
That's what I'm working on now. You mentioned the song, which was co-written by Phil Davis.
Right.
And when you listen to that song, those gentlemen loved the words so much that through the years, I've been asked to sing for their various conferences. And so next week, they're flying me to DC for their annual fall conference and the installation of their new president.
And which organization is this?
This is the 100 Black Men of America.
Okay.
That what they see is what they'll be.
Okay.
And so I'm going up to sing that song for them, and excited to do it. And it kind of calls on all of the range of my voice, but right now I'm in that process, Tyrone. I haven't really sung a lot. You know, I know I've lost it over the past month because I've been concentrating on something totally different.
Right.
And so I've got to do kind of intense vocalizing between now and next week. So I'll be ready for my gig in DC. And then in October, I'm going to Philadelphia for the Coalition of 100 Black Women.
Wow.
They are having a conference, and they've asked me to fly in to sing for that. Different songs, but you know, I'm very happy for these opportunities. So I will be rehearsing for, you know, the next month intensely so that I can have all of my range.
All right.
I have to work at it. It's more difficult as I age. You know, I remember my voice teacher at one time, Dr. Cecily Beasley, and she talks like this. And she says, on those days when you have to sing, you should really try to be right up here in these sounds. And I am not exaggerating.
Wow.
And she said that would save my voice instead of down here. So
Well, they're busting me out to Riverdale for the One Black Man convention. That's what I got going on.
The busiest man in America, Tyrone Jackson. Stop it.
And that one is going to be Brad Thomas. And listen, I'm glad the discipline of maintaining your singing voice. Can you talk a little bit about what that entails? Because
Sure. Muscles, like any other part of the body, vocal cords, and the more you use them, the better they are. And so I realize it's what you guys call shedding. And Tyrone, you were talking earlier, you know, just trying to get your agility where it should be. Now, if you had been playing the past 5 days in a row, you wouldn't be having that conversation, you know. So I would say the same thing vocally, at least for me. I have to be singing every day to maintain my chords and maintain the sound I want to create at the level I want to create it, you know. And I can tell, like in rehearsal, I know, all right, so that part is off. So, you know, go back and run that a little bit more in that midsection there. So the more that I love rehearsal. I can't get enough. You know, I know with you guys are always
Yes, you
trying to.
do. I can. Yes, you do. You do love rehearsal. I will stand 100% behind that.
I know y'all like to go one gig to hit the next. Me, I just want to rehearse and get it, you know, just like exactly. Yeah, you know,
The
and you
last
can't always do that. And so that's the joy of working with professionals, is that even though the rehearsal time is short, we can get done what we want to get done. But I'm always like, man, if I just had one more day.
Well, it's so funny because the last rehearsal that I did with you was for the show that Tyrone curated for
Yes,
the Balzer Theater.
yes,
And we rehearsed at Phil Davis's house. And I want you to
yes,
talk a little bit about Phil in a minute, but
yes.
we rehearsed at Phil's house, and we're rehearsing in his control room where he records and stuff. But there's a drum booth that's kind of off to the side, that's away from everybody. So
Right.
I'm stuck in this booth for, I got headphones, I can see everybody, but I'm completely disconnected to
Yeah.
conversation or whatever. And I'm just sitting there, I'm in there, we're running stuff, and everything's cool, blah, 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 blah. And after a while, I had to come around. I was like, can I come out of my room now, Mom? Because it was literally like being sent to your
Oh,
room as a
Oh
kid.
no.
And you not coming out till your work is done. That's what it was like. So
right.
I just had to bring that one up a little bit.
Well,
But
there is that part, but yes, I like it to be right, and
But y'all
so you know,
sounded so
many
good.
times for these gigs, it's a one-off. You know,
right,
now if
right,
I knew that it was 3 nights in a row, you know what I'm
yes,
saying? Then that's a
yes.
whole different energy, and I'm so jealous. I mean, I was at the Beyonce concert, my first ever,
Oh
and
wow.
just totally blown away by everything, blown away
Wow.
by everything. But I'm like, man, she's been singing for like 30 days straight. You know, well, you know, break in between, but the agility, the smoothness, just I'm so jealous of that. I'm so jealous of anybody who's got three days in a row that you can do. Plays. I love plays. For that
Right.
one reason. You can do it tonight, and then you can do it tomorrow night, and then you can do it the next night, and then wait, you can do it every night next week. I love that. I love that.
I
Could
just
zone out
noticed.
from that. Oh, there we go. Nice
Hey.
pictures. Yeah, you guys were great.
That was a great gig. That was a
Yeah.
great gig. I was very, very pleased with the music and the sound,
Yeah,
Tyrone.
it came out
And
nice.
and thank you again for having me.
No,
I'm so
you.
sorry I couldn't get to support the others because the second one I was out of the city, and then the third one I was with blinders on into my process for the film festival.
Of
So
course. Of
I just
course.
wasn't looking up, but I hope they were successful for you.
They were really nice, and Chris played on all of them so far, right, Chris? Wow, that's
On
crazy.
your shows,
You played
well,
on no,
one of
you yeah, one.
them,
Yeah. Rhonda
I've
played
done
had one and
Carla
two.
and
Yeah.
I've done Kathleen.
Right.
Yeah.
That was a good
So
one too. One thing I remember about that show is I came out to stop the set, and Kathleen looked
mhm.
at me like, "Whoa, we got more songs to go." I was like, "Yeah, we gotta get it."
Yeah, I
She's
remember
like,
that.
"We practiced these songs." I was
We
like,
gonna play these
"Okay,
songs.
right." Then I got drafted. It was fun, but I got drafted to play. I was like, "Man, I want to listen to the
Absolutely.
music." So, but it was really,
Absolutely.
really, really fun.
Absolutely. Well, Tyrone, you know, you're so multifaceted. And
Really.
for my audience who was seeing your name as, you know, curated by, for me, it was just an opportunity for them to hear you, for people that
Oh,
didn't know
nice.
you. And then you and I have such a wonderful energy when we play together.
Right.
And I wanted that as part of the evening. That was important to me.
Did your people like me? Did they like me? They really like me.
I
No.
really like it. Absolutely. That's what it sounded like to me, Tyrone.
Right. But no, that was fun. It was my pleasure. And it was just a duo. It was just me and you. So that was really special. Yeah.
That's
Cool
right.
to connect.
That's right.
So yeah, well, that's a perfect. Well, I'm sorry. Go ahead, bro.
Oh, you go, Chris.
I was
I
gonna
might say the same thing.
that's a good, the keyboard players that you've worked with in Atlanta. We're all connected. We're all good friends.
Yeah, when she mentioned Cascade, I thought about Kenny Banks Sr., who's
well,
That's
that's
right.
so I was going to
and
ask.
Junior too might have.
That's
Yeah.
right.
So let's talk a little bit about your, Kenny Banks Sr., who will be on the show at some point. And we all have. I mean, obviously Tyrone's a keyboard player, so he hasn't played much with Kenny, but I've done a lot of work with Kenny also. But I know you guys go even, like way back, and are still connected through Cascade, through the church. And so talk a little bit about about what he brings to, what you like in terms of what he brings to your thing,
and Phil, and then everybody else.
Yeah. And well, yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay. I love talking about
just not just a little smidgen, just a little taste.
Kenny is almost like on steroids when he's into the music. You know what I'm saying? He's so amped and in it, and I love that. We went to Montreux together. I think, was it my first one? It was my first trip to Montreux, I think. No, my first trip was Gary Motley. My second was Kenny, and my third was Phil, I think. Yeah, I did 3 trips to Montreux.
And this is Montreux Jazz Festival.
Yes, in Switzerland. Yes, and so I just love Kenny's attention to detail. In making sure that everything is right. I love his energy and just how amped he gets about the music, whatever it is. I remember we were doing a program at Ebenezer. Ebenezer used to have this program in the summer called Jazz at Ebenezer. And I inaugurated that for them. I think I did it like 5 years in a row or something like that. And we took jazz form and we added gospel songs, but in a jazzy way. And Kenny was the person that I had been doing that with the most. And we had all these wonderful arrangements. And so it was just a really beautiful coming together. So we used to be in I think they call it the Heritage Sanctuary, the original church, Ebenezer Church.
Ebenezer.
We packed that out so that people were outside, couldn't get in, that kind of thing. So we got upgrade, and they moved us to the larger, newer sanctuary. And being in that space was wonderful. It was a challenge, of course, because now we get to have twice as many people. But the sound wasn't exactly right when we came in. And when I tell you we had a set time for sound check and everybody hit it, but Kenny was not satisfied. He was fiddling with the sound up until about 10 minutes before we were scheduled to hit. Now, what that said to me was, he wants it right as much as I want it right.
Right.
And that kind of commitment to what my sound would be is something I just have never forgotten. He's that dedicated to being you having what you need as the vocal sound, and that meant everything to me. And he's the same way with the choir and everything else we do. So I love him. I love his son, Kenny Jr., who actually came and hung out with my kids in his early years in Atlanta. They're all around the same age. And I had a gig that Kenny was supposed to play for, and he was still flying back into Atlanta from it. And so he told me that his son would be playing for him instead. And this was our first chance playing together. He was superb. The audience loved him, and he's got that same kind of almost levitating quality that his dad has when he starts to play and he's in, oh my goodness, the most amazing arrangements. Where the space where this music comes from in his head just amazes me.
And that's a great what you just said, because he's got that. It's just in his head.
Yes.
He's got that stuff in his head.
Yes, yes. And so I love that about him. I love the freshness that he brings to whatever it is that he plays. Phil Davis, my brother from another mother. We have played together since the late 80s. My kids were really small and I was working at Underground Atlanta. And Phil came in and sat in one night while I was there singing. And we just kind of stayed in touch. And we started performing together. I started calling on him because I was constantly getting gigs to here, there, and someplace else. And so I started calling on Phil more and more. And we decided that we were going to do a recorded project together. And so, yeah, I don't mean to cut my Phil time short because I want to say more about him. But you guys allow me to go dark for a moment so I can plug my tablet in because it's going to die. Okay.
Don't let it die.
Don't let it die.
If y'all don't get that reference, that's a Kathleen Bertrand song.
Original, yes.
Original, yeah. Yeah, man. It's crazy that people don't know that Kenny Banks Sr. has one of the best left hands in the business. Like his feel when he plays.
Yeah, his feel is to me that's everything. Is the feel, how he, because I mean, if there's anybody that doesn't need a drummer, it's Kenny Banks.
We covet his left hand. Like we hey, bro, how are you doing this?
He's so in the groove.
Oh, it's in the groove, man.
It's so in the groove. It was kind of funny because at the session last night, there were 4 of your students were there. I can't remember everybody's names, but
they're coming out. Okay, cool.
They were coming. Yeah, they came out, and one of them asked me a question about. He said, "How do you make a quarter note swing like that?"
Really? They're learning.
And I was like, man, that's a deep question coming from an 18 or 19-year-old kid. Because I was, it's like, man, what do you? But he was like, man, because Craig Shaw was on bass, of course. Nice. But he heard the swing within that quarter note. So I just talked to him a little bit about some stuff. But that was pretty cool. But that's kind of what Kenny, to me, immortalizes is that whole. He can be playing the simplest thing, but it's still grooving and it's still swinging.
Oh yes, definitely grooving.
Yeah,
definitely grooving.
Absolutely.
Grooving. Yes.
But Phil, so tell us a little bit about Phil.
So Phil was the baby of all the musicians that I knew at the time, including people like the late Ojita Penn. Want to say his name? Yeah. Rest in peace. I used to play with Ojita. But Phil was like the young one. He was just out of college and coming to sit in. But he had this amazing ability of what he didn't know this gig. By the time you get to the next gig, he definitely had it down,
Right.
And I loved the freshness that he brought in reinterpreting some of the standards, Betty Carter came in once while I was singing at Underground, and she said, always keep some young musicians around. And she didn't really get into deep detail.
I'm sorry.
It's okay. You can interpret that a number of ways.
Yes.
You can interpret that a number of ways, Chris Burroughs, but I took that to heart because I really appreciated having, doing something like Summertime and with a groove that I'd never heard before, and so much of that, I think that's the same kind of thing I was talking about Kenny Jr. I love these reinterpretations that this next generation brings to the classics and the standards that I grew up with and that I've sung so many times over and over again. You just appreciate a new musical perspective. And I think that's what Phil brought. But not only that, he brought great respect for me as a vocalist and the preparation he does for our gigs, as music director, similar to what you do, Tyrone, just making sure every chart is right, everything is in place. I loved that about Phil. And I still do for the things that we do together. And so the collaborative spirit was there. And he was the first producer for my first CD project. I didn't want to just do a tape. A lot of people were passing their tape around. And then you write on it and say, well, my song is like the fifth one in. I just, I'm all it's the packaging, it's the whole total package kind of thing. And so I knew I wanted my first CD to just really be something very special. It was time. I was doing it. I was turning 50. It's just like I can still do this. And so Phil produced that for me.
Wow.
So he's always special. We've collaborated on so many songs, and he goes back on occasion and listens to the songs we've done. He's like, KB, that was bad. I was like, yeah, it was.
I'm kind of glad we're there in that space. What can you let the people know what it entails to do a project on that magnitude? Like, what does it entail to do a project?
Well, you need funds, first of all. Even for people that are doing things as a favor, you need to be able to pay somebody something.
Wow.
You gotta, everybody, favors run out by the time you get into your, sixth or seventh project. Favors folks be saying, well, didn't I do the favor the last time? So, but Phil called on a lot of people to help us do that first CD. He called on his relationships because it wasn't necessarily people I know, but I was able to pay him. You need to be able to have some idea of what you want your sound to be, or to know enough about you to know that what you hear on this recorded project, does that reflect you? Right. For my first CD, when we first put it together and said it was done and I heard it, there was so much that I just did not like about it. And I said, I called Phil and a gentleman I was working with, Gerald Jackson, another good friend. I said, it's not done because I don't like it, because this is wrong, that's wrong, this wrong, And that taught me to never say it's done until it's done. So it requires patience. It requires fortitude, perseverance, because you're going to be in the studio, at least as a vocalist, and you're going to say, that really didn't sound the way that it should or it could. Can I do this over? And be willing to say, I want to do this over, or I don't want to do this at all. You got to have a sense of how you want to sound. And then I think stylistically, how you want everything to look together. I really wanted my first CD to look like Nancy Wilson's CD or Barbra Streisand's or anybody else's that was out there, because I was going to try to get it in Tower Records. And so I did, well, when we had record stoves, as Chris said.
Record stove.
So I did succeed in getting it at Tower Records, and we were number one for 3 weeks.
Wow.
They put my music in the general section with other CDs and not over in the Atlanta section.
Right. Oh, nice.
That helped me. But I had a great album cover, great album design, no misspellings. No, I'm all about that stuff. Right. Just really professional look to.
What's the name of your first record?
My first record was called All of Me.
Okay.
was called All of Me. The
Okay.
CD was called All of Me. And but yeah, we were #1 at Tower Records for like 3
Nice.
weeks. And that's
Wow.
above national acts and everything. So I got
Mhm.
great support from the
Mhm.
community back when we were selling records.
Mhm.
So I think that getting that first project out is important because it's like you are honing the steel, you are experiencing it, you are, as I say with the festival, you're making the sausage. It's not all pretty, and
No.
there are frustrations, there's setbacks, sometimes delays, but you push through until you have that first product, and it's something to be proud of.
Right.
And almost like birthing a baby, but not quite, but almost, because it's done. It's been a labor of love. After
Right.
you've done that first one, though, it gives you the knowledge of what you're made of.
Right.
So you
Right.
can say,
Right.
oh, I did that. I can do
Mhm.
this again and do it better.
And you learn about those deadlines that are malleable, right? We go into that first project, it's like, I'm going to get this done by this time. It's going to be mixed by this day. I'm going to have it mastered. I'm going to have a CD release party in November, and you're like, oh man, I can't get past. And like me and Chris said the other day, like, this is forever. You put
Yeah.
this out,
Yeah.
and you don't want to go back and listen like you and Phil listen to the project. It's like, wow, that was bad. But you don't want to go listen to it. It's like, oh man, I should have done that over again. Did you hear that click right in the background? You don't want to do that.
Yes.
And so, like you said, the first time you do an album, it's just this weight of trying to do stuff. And then the second time you're like, okay, I know what this entails. I
Yes.
know what I have to reach for.
Yes.
I know I have to give myself some time because
Yes.
it's not going to always work out
Yes.
like you think it's going to work out,
Yes.
And so don't pressure yourself. That's when you make mistakes, when you pressure yourself to have these deadlines that's immovable. And that's,
Yes.
you learn that. So,
Yes. Well, I think when you are, I was putting out CDs and working a full-time job.
yeah.
Bill was teaching.
Right.
So the juggle. I had family, and he had a family at one
Right.
point in time during our early part. He did not, but as we grew, he had a young family.
Right.
So trying to go to work, come home, fix something to eat, get kids homework, and then go to the studio.
Mm.
Right.
And
Right.
and then go to work and be a manager or a vice president or whatever it is that you're doing in this other
Right.
life that you're doing. And you can't be in this job saying, oh, well, I had a late night last night in the studio. Nobody want to hear that.
Right. But you have a project. Name of one of your records is it Catharsis?
Yes.
And that is really music. Is that the impetus for the song? Is that it's cathartic, or catharsis
Yes.
is okay? Cool.
Yes. It was cathartic for me to
Right.
just kind of really get all of that energy out through
Right.
the songs that we chose or the songs that we wrote. And yes, I spelled it with a K because
You're, yeah. We're not saying that you're narcissistic or anything like that. Spelling it with a
no,
K.
I'm just an artiste. That's
Right. No, that's good.
yeah.
And you're right. Getting that out of your system, like when COVID hit. I remember we were supposed to do a show. Remember that? It was
Oh
going to be
yes.
songs, and it was like a week before they shut everything down. I remember you called me. You're like, "Should we still go on with this?" And I'm like, "Kathleen, I don't know. I'm thinking this is going to blow over or whatever."
Yes. Yes.
And
We
then
were gonna
next
do
thing,
Sisters in Song, Tyrone.
Sisters in Song,
That's
right?
right. That's right.
And I thought about that. We went into a deep dive of no music, no performances. And
Yes.
coming out of that, one of the cathartic experiences was with me and Chris. We had an outdoor gig because that's when they were saying that you can have things outside, right?
Yeah.
Man, I was chomping at the bit to play because I was practicing, I was shedding, but it was nothing like getting with the group and playing. And
Yes.
after that
Yeah.
first set, me and Chris looked at each other. All right. We got to figure out how to play music now because we forgot all about how to play it in the band together. We want to let our chops come out from it. And we were, oh man, I can
Yes.
speak for myself. It was eye opening that, like you said about the vocal folds, his muscles. playing in a live situation after not playing for a year and a half is like, it was cathartic, but at the same time it is revelatory. I was like, oh, there's a lot of holes in my plan that used to be muscles right there.
Yes, 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 yes,
Mhm.
yes, yes, yes. So the Atlanta Jazz Festival went ahead with some kind of programming, because we got the shutdown in March.
Right.
And so the Atlanta Jazz Festival, thank heavens for them, because musicians got paid when there were no gigs,
Right.
And so that March, so this is May, and
Right.
they rented a facility. They
Right.
had a sound team and lighting, instruments. You had to almost like, sterilize, as you came into
Yeah.
the room, and all that kind of thing.
Oh
Everybody
yeah.
had masks on. Everybody
Right.
had
Right.
Mhm.
masks on except
Mhm.
the vocalists. I
But yeah,
can't.
y'all had to get COVID tests too. Everybody had to have tests.
Yes, had to get a COVID test,
Yeah.
but I so appreciate them for doing that for us,
Yeah.
because it allowed so many musicians to get a little piece of something,
Right. Right. Right.
and it showed the thinking of, well, we know it's COVID, everybody's at home, we're going to stream this. And
Right.
so they recorded all of these sessions, and then they
Right.
played them back every night. It was so wonderful. I so appreciated that ability that they had, but also the opportunity to see the band. But you couldn't,
Right.
I hug, and I couldn't hug
Right.
nobody.
Right.
Oh,
Mm.
Right.
Man.
it was really crazy, but we made it through. What was that app that people started using, where you could be one place and have piano, and then another place and I could have vocals,
Oh
and when
yeah.
you put them together, it was I can't think of the app, but I started doing quite a bit of work with other people on that app to be able to
Right.
still sing, but it's still not the same as being in the room with someone.
No. No.
Mhm, 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 mhm.
We have a question for you, Kathleen, if you're okay with that.
Absolutely.
I'm gonna put it up here.
Okay.
Brad Thomas asked, Kathleen, what particulars did you look for in choosing musicians for your projects?
For my projects, I'm assuming you mean my recorded projects.
I'm thinking that's
Um,
what he means.
right, yeah. I really just had to go with people that I know their ability. Now, I will say I generally defer to the producer. So whether it was Tyrone's project, or whether it was the projects that Phil was producing, or the ones that I did in California, I go with what the producer has. And if I have someone that I can add to it, I do. So that's kind of what's happened. Um, I was introduced to Russell Gunn because Phil hired him to play on one of my CDs. I
Mm-hmm.
had never met Russell Gunn in
Mm-hmm.
person, and
Right.
now he's one of the people that I very much appreciate. But I
Mm-hmm.
didn't know who Russell was until Phil called on him to be on my project. So that's what I would say. I defer to the producers. I
Yeah.
don't really go and pick musicians. Um, yeah. Sometimes I depend on people in my choir for the vocals, because I know what they do and how versatile they are.
Right.
And so I do that, or I do them myself. So
And sometimes you have configurations, right, Kathleen, that when you do live performances, like you'll choose between having a horn player or guitar or percussion.
yes,
Those things like are those
depends on the budget.
yeah, right. Unlimited budget, you can have
Right,
everybody.
right.
Right,
Depends
right.
on the budget. The bigger the budget,
But
the more
I've heard you
people.
think about sounds as well.
Yes,
Like when you're most people don't know that when you have an idea, you will live with it and formulate the whole process, the whole thing. Like sometimes we look at just the music, but you're looking at the space, the event,
yes,
and you're curating everything that goes into it.
yes.
So
Well, but that's what you do as a producer, right? You
yeah,
do that as a producer for something that's recorded. So for if it's live, it's the same process. You know, all of the Sisters in Songs, I was a producer and talent. And so every single detail is something that you have to pay attention to, both for the comfort of the artist and the musicians, and for the experience of those people that are going to be watching it. You got to look at both sides of what's going to happen in that space. And I was comfortable doing it, but it's a lot.
And truth be told, it's not. You have to think about that, because every musician has strengths and weaknesses. You know, I have them, and I'll be the first one. There was one recording project I did, and the guy, I was playing organ, which I'm learning organ, but he wanted a specific style of organ, right? This rock organ, which I don't play rock organ. And there was no problem for me to say, listen, I'm not the guy for this. You know what I'm saying? So you're not hurting my feelings. You're not hurting my feelings at all. And I told the guy was, shout out to Marty Kearns, great engineer at 800 East. I said, why don't you play it? I was like, I know enough about Pro Tools. He's like, really? I was like, bro, you're not hurting my feelings. You got what's in your head to play. Go play it, you know?
And Marty always is trying to stay behind the desk, the
console, man. Right? Yeah,
he knows he's a bad keyboard player.
I love
he's bad. Right. He knows he's bad.
Hey, I got a question. I have actually two questions, but I'll ask one, and then maybe Chris has another question. But the intersectionality of being a female and a person of color in this industry, what is that? Do you deal with any pressures or anything of being a female in a male-dominated genre, and also being a person of color? What is that like?
So I'll kind of reverse that. Being a person of color, I haven't found a lot of barriers for me personally. And not to say that they weren't there. I haven't had a lot of situations where I've had to deal with anything that's odd. I had to go to Macon once, and we were about to do a performance, and the guy that was like the maitre d' of the place or something wanted us to use a certain door or something like that. And I was like, no, we didn't come here to use that door, you know. Right. And I just kind of, I hate this term, stood my ground, but I did, because I was the talent, but I was also the person that was contracted to do the show. There was no one else. And so I had to do that for me and for my band.
Right.
And but most situations I've been in, I really haven't had any issues relating to that. That, at least that I know of. There may be gigs I didn't get, but I don't know. You know, I don't know that. There are other situations, as being a lone female. I think there were some musicians in maybe the early days that just didn't come with the respect. It wasn't a disrespectful thing. It was just like, you know, but it wasn't a respectful thing. It wasn't like, know who I am, I'm signing the check kind of thing, you see. And I think that's also kind of helped me just kind of establish who I am, is because I do sign the check, you know. And so if you're on my gig, you're going to be paid. You're going to be paid well. You're not going to have to chase me around town to get your check.
Thank you.
And so with that, I've gained respect from musicians. I try to treat people well, male or female. Don't talk about people. I don't have anything to say other than my business, unless I'm giving accolades, because that's my business. The people that I work with, I'm all about shouting them out. And if I don't work with you, I'm not going to be talking about you about something else that happened on somebody else's gig. It's just not what I do. I don't have time. You know, I don't have time. So I have.
You just don't know the fun of that. That's just why you won't do it.
I just try to be in a space.
Drama. We want drama. We want drama.
Yeah, terms
I try to
that's
be in a
always
space
used.
of harmony, and peace. That works best for.
Hey, Discord is harmony too.
Huh?
Discord is harmony.
Well, yeah, I get you know, yes. But it doesn't work for me.
Minor notes. Give me some of the more minor, not major. Yeah, minor. One more minor.
Nah.
I can sing the minor notes. But yeah, I just try to keep things in harmony. And because so when you ask me about, you know, female in the space, right. I don't know what I don't know. I don't know what I haven't gotten because I'm female. But what I do get, it comes with respect because that's what I give, and that's what I expect in return, nothing less.
Right, and that's why you get that adjective or moniker, if you will, classy. Whenever everybody talk about you, Kathleen, they say that she's classy.
Well,
yeah, Kathleen calls. I don't ask no questions. I don't ask what it pays. I don't ask where, because I know it's going to be cool. So don't
I appreciate that. I appreciate.
Well, listen, we really enjoy. I mean, we could do a part 2, 3, 4, 5. We don't want to keep you all night, but you know, maybe one last question for you. Actually, we have a question from the chat. So let's do that one first.
Okay, question from the chat.
All right. So whoever, Roberta Robertson, I don't know. I'm not sure who that is, but
Jackson is the important part, you know.
Jackson, she asks, Kathleen Bertrand, I know some people have bucket lists. If you had one, name a place or location you desire to perform live.
I would love to do more jazz festivals in Europe. At one time, that was a goal of mine. There's the European Jazz Festivals Organization, I think, that kind of connected all the festivals from Montreux to Nice to Vienne. And I really wanted to pursue that, but just couldn't. I'm still working. I knew if I couldn't do the 6 or 8 weeks it would take to do something like that. But that's what I would love to do. I'd love to go back to Europe and do the wonderful summer jazz festivals that are there because they're in such beautiful locations.
Any location in particular that you would?
There's a amphitheater like in France, in Vienne. I would love to be there. I'd love to do the North Sea Jazz Festival.
Yeah, that's on. That's
the North Sea.
Wouldn't
mind going back to Montreux again. Although I've been there 3 times. It's beautiful. It's a beautiful place to be. And there's a Umbria, Italy. There's one in Italy, Umbria, that I'd love to do that one. So
can your pilot take you there? I mean, how's your
Did you get a picture of the jet? Did you get a picture of the jet, bro? Can we show the jet?
Can we see the jet?
I have a picture of Delta. I can show you.
Hey, if you ever get out to the UK, I would love to hear you with one of my favorite piano players out there, Jason Rebello.
Okay.
So if you do hit that bucket list,
let's do it. Hook us up. You know, because more things are possible than impossible. You just have to speak to it and push forward on it. So hook us up, Tyrone.
Okay.
I could do that. I could do
All right.
So let me just also say, I would love to come back. I'm really happy. 2 things I'll say very quickly. I'm really happy with what you're doing with your podcast, almost a podcast, not quite, going to narrow it down.
Right.
But I love it because Tyrone, we sat in your studio not long after the pandemic or talking about and I kept talking about getting people in front of the microphone to just talk about their experiences because there's so many amazing musicians that live right here in Atlanta that people don't know. They don't give Atlanta musicians credit, although they're getting it more and more. But so I'm just so happy with what you guys are doing with this, and just wishing you the best as you move forward, and putting in the work. There's nothing that comes easy. You do have to put in the work. It does take time. And so I know with Tyrone, with you being in school, I know, somebody's got to keep doing the work.
Right.
I understand that. I understand that. And so just keep doing, though. Don't be discouraged, because what you're doing is needed. It's needed for this community. It's needed for musicians in whatever community, to find out that somebody else is kind of going through the same things, or someone else is doing something that can teach me how to do what I'm doing better. I just love it. I'm so appreciative of you guys for doing this. And I'm saying that because when I have this new project that's coming out next year, then I want to come back and talk about it, and talk about the process, because somebody that's on this call is part of the process. And so, it should be really interesting.
I wonder who that could be.
Yeah.
It could be.
I got a dream team to work with for my next project. I'm very excited, still doing it. And so, just have me back.
All right. We'll keep that on the hush hush until everything is
done,
is ready to go.
That's right.
And we look forward to seeing everything that you're, I know you still got many projects in you.
Right. We didn't even talk about Bronze Lens. We didn't.
I know. That's what I'm saying. We gotta bring. We had a great chop up with Al Smith. We got to bring him back to talk about some more stuff. We're gonna do the same thing with you. And this is, just the beginning of this journey, and our journey, and the Local Musicians XP journey. So we're learning on the job. There's infinite levels to what this is going to be and what it can be. And so the next time we bring you on, hopefully we're going to be at a different level. And I think we will.
All right now.
So
all right. I'm ready for different level.
That's right. That's right.
You say something to Black people and they go, all right, different level.
All right, brown pants. All right, red shirt. All right, different level.
All right, what? All right, anything, whatever. All right.
I love you guys. I appreciate you calling on
Thank
me. I'm glad that I could do it. And just until the next time.
Yay. Absolutely. Thank you so much. And we will see you soon, Miss Bertrand.
Thank you, everybody, for tuning in.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.